You're listening to international investment advisor Doug Goldstein on the Goldstein on Gelt show, the financial show where we'll talk about how you can make the most of your money. With all the confusing financial chatter bombarding you each and every day, Goldstein on Gelt will give you the practical information you want and need about living a financially stable life. Here's your host, money maven Doug Goldstein.
Okay, we are back. We are talking to Betty Shotton. She's got over 35 years experience as a CEO, an entrepreneur, and a leadership consultant. During her professional career, she started 6 companies, including one that became a New York Stock Exchange IPO, known today as ResortQuest International, which is part of Wyndham Worldwide. Betty, it's a real pleasure to have you.
It is a pleasure to be with you.
Tell me something. I'd like to talk to you about leadership because you've got a book out now called 10 Principles for Exceptional Leadership. How is it that you came into being as a leadership professional?
I think I knew I was going to be a leader when I was elected to the student council in 3rd grade at Bedford Hills Elementary School in Lynchburg, Virginia, and I've been in leadership positions ever since.
Wow.
It's what I do and it's what I love. I think leadership is a great honor and a great privilege, and I love it.
I get this sense from your writings and what you talk about that you see leadership a little bit differently from other people. A lot of people seem to emphasize the numbers and the size as a sign of results, but you seem to look a little bit beyond that. Could you explain?
Well, I think the primary tenet of being a leader is being in a position to influence and support other people in reaching their potential. So leadership, to me, really is an art, and the numerical side of leadership, which is a part of the responsibility, but that's more of a science. That's something you can go to school and you can take accounting, you can take finance, you can take calculus, you can take investment strategies, you can learn those things. But the art of leadership, which is the ability to bring people together in a common purpose to reach a common goal together, that is, to me, what really distinguishes leadership from, say, management or more operational types of roles that people have.
So can you give some examples of where, let's say, investors today might look for and find excellent leaders?
Investors? In what sense?
Well, let's say that I was looking to buy a stock in a company, and I want to, ultimately, I think I'm buying the leadership of that company.
That's a really good question, because I think it is, it's difficult to measure true leadership, but I think if you are an investor and you're looking at different companies and you want to see the quality of the leadership, one thing I think you would want to look for is sustainability in terms of the history and the track record of the organization. How long has it been around? How much turnover has there been in the CEO position? So, like, for instance, I'm thinking of Citicorp. I think went through maybe 4 CEOs in 2 years.
Right.
Whereas you can go and something like Campbell's Soup with Doug Conant was there forever and ever. I think that if you look at who the CEO is and look at their track record and look how long they've been there and reviews, then you can get a feel for the leadership. But I think you have to actually go to the person, to the top person, and get a sense of their character.
So other than having been there a long time, what do you look for when you look at someone's character?
Well, you will see articles written about people often. There are plenty of scandals. You'll see the poor character in the media all the time, and unfortunately we see a lot of that. We see that in business. We see that in politics. We see that in all sectors. The media is full of indications of character breakdowns or a lack of a good foundation in leadership. And we should pay attention to that. It's important. I mean, because during the 2007-2008 collapse, and we have some impending collapses now too, the character of the people that are leading these organizations, be it political or business, will have an effect on the sustainability and the long-term profitability and the survivability of those organizations. So one, you would pay attention to obvious breakdowns in leadership character. I mean, so that's the first step. On the other side of it, there are plenty of reviews and information in magazines like Fortune, Forbes, Investor Daily has a lot of information on CEOs, Fast Company, Inc. magazine, your show, lots of information about outstanding leaders and leaders that are doing things. For instance, Indra Nooyi, who's the CEO of Pepsi, her motto is performance and purpose, which tells me something about her.
All right. Let me tell the people something about you. We are talking to Betty Shotton, who is the author of a book called Liftoff Leadership. It's the 10 Principles for Exceptional Leadership. Betty, tell me something. Why did you call it Liftoff Leadership? Is it related to your background in flying?
It is. I am a pilot, and the sense of, and I'm not an astronaut, but to cross over from piloting and launches and rockets and getting above the earth intrigues me. So the concept of a launch pad where if you are a leader, that you actually step up to that position and that you've got the tools, you've got the foundation, you've done your homework, and you're ready and prepared to actually elevate yourself above mediocrity and get up there where your perspectives are greatly elevated and your horizons are much bigger, and you those kinds of perspectives are exciting to me when I think about what leaders are capable of.
Right. I guess to have that viewpoint is gives you something special. A lot of times when people think about leadership and leadership consultants, I think that they think of only the big companies. They think of Steve Jobs and Bill Gates. Do the principles that you talk about apply to small businessmen and women?
Absolutely. I believe that regardless of the position that you're in, every person in a leadership position has a lot of responsibility for the lives that are underneath them, be they 10 people or be they 10 or 15,000 people, whether they're the person who is operating the local grocery store, the way that they conduct themselves and their leadership and the customer service that they have affects the community. So it's all relative, but all important, whether you're a CEO of an international company or running your own business and providing services and goods to a smaller community. Who you are as a leader has a significant effect on the life all around you.
It seems that the next generation might have a slightly different view of this. I remember in my office, my day job is that I'm a financial advisor, and I run a company based in Jerusalem called Profile Investments. Basically, it's sort of a boutique financial planning and investment services firm. I get very close with my clients. I really try to understand their situation. Anyway, one day a marketing guy comes into my office and he starts telling me how I'm so underrepresented on Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn, and my website's not good enough, and I'm missing all this social media. And I said, my social media is that I actually sit and I talk to people. And the irony of this conversation is the whole time this marketing expert was sitting staring at his laptop computer that he had placed on the conference table between him and me. So I get the feeling that a lot of the principles you're talking about are either not being taught today, or they just seem very old-fashioned. How is modern life affecting your concepts, which may seem a little bit, I don't want to say outdated, but they're traditional?
Well, I would say they're beyond traditional. I would say that they're almost ageless. That the foundational values and attributes of great and exceptional leadership go back to the beginnings of time, because the meaning to life has to do with integrity, with altruism, with being accountable to others, with courage. These attributes are fundamental to defining and giving meaning to life. And what I find in my speaking and traveling with this message is that the younger generation is really eager to read this book, to hear the message, to have some sense of hope that it's not just about money, that it actually is about meaning, is about contribution. I find that in today's fast-paced, fast-changing, highly technological, uncertain, somewhat unstable world, that the leaders coming up in the pike are really searching and happy to combine meaningful contribution into the work that they do and the financial side of it as well. So I feel great about. I think it's time to revitalize these attributes and values and bring them back into the leadership conversation.
Amen to that. Do you think that people who are running these sort of organizations, given the amount of work and the complications, still have time to be parents and good family members?
Well, they will if they take the time. One of the things that I often talk about is that our lives, each person's reality is a reflection of the choices that they're making. And for leaders, too, one of the first things I say to leaders when I'm talking to a group of them is that your organization or your department is a reflection of your leadership. So don't blame or get upset or complain about the stress and how much you're working and how people don't care. This is something you've created. Create something different. Create something better. And so if you are too busy and you are too stressed, it becomes your responsibility to recognize that and have the wisdom and maturity to seek a balance. And that's one of the chapters, and it actually gives you a kind of step-by-step guide on how to take a look at your life and your leadership and bring them into balance.
Okay, that sounds like an important place to look. Betty Shotton, we're just about out of time, but in the last few seconds, could you just tell people how they could learn more about your book and more about the work that you're doing?
Yeah, Liftoff Leadership is the name of the book. It's also the name of my company. If you Google Liftoff Leadership, you'll find that you can get the book itself on Amazon. I've got a leadership blog. You'll find that too. I'm on Facebook and Twitter, and I send out a lot of information that way. I don't know. Do you have Barnes & Noble over there?
Not the big stores, but I think you can buy online.
Okay, well, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and most independent bookstores will get it as well. So just Google Liftoff Leadership, and you'll find everything you want to know, and I'll look forward to hearing from people.
Great. Betty Shotton, thanks so much for taking the time today.
Absolutely. It was my pleasure. Thanks, Doug.
You've been listening to the Goldstein on Gelt Show with money maven Doug Goldstein. Doug's weekly radio show is heard around the world, but if you miss it, you can download the podcast at www.goldsteinongelt.com. The Goldstein on Gelt show gives you up-to-date financial ideas so you can get on the path to financial freedom. If you'd like your questions answered on the air or off, send Doug an email to doug@profile-financial.com. It's your money for your future, so join Doug every week to build your wealth on the Goldstein on Gelt show.